Hello, it's Robert here again, fact-checking stories that scare you. And this time, it's just a bit of reassurance for any of you who are looking at the daily count for your state and then maybe get a bit scared. So this is for Virginia. There's someone in the group who's scared who's from Virginia. So I'm using it as an example. So you can see the cases per day, and it's quite high. It's gone over 1,000, and it's coming down. It's come down significantly since the lockdown. This shows that Virginia is actually doing a pretty good job. It's in the northeast, and many states in the northeast are doing rather a good job. But it's got a little bit of a rise again. It's stuck at around 500, and it's not going down any further, and maybe even slightly going up. By the way, there's a super graph in the University of Virginia. The green there shows the recoveries, and the blues, the tiny little blues there, the deaths. And the red ones, most of those are going to recover, but they recover weeks into the future, some of them, and some of them just days, some of them weeks. So remember, nearly everyone recovers. So, and that's the overall situation. But now, let's go to this another super map from the New York Times. You don't need a subscription for this particular map. And this shows, region by region, all the counties in Virginia. So on a state level, with 500 or more, it seems really very impossible to deal with. But if you go down to the county level, then most of these have had few or no cases in the last 2 weeks. If it's grey, then it's too few cases to count. So if you're in one of those grey counties, there just haven't been any cases, any significant numbers of cases. If you are in one of the blue counties, then you have had some cases, but the number has gone down. So this 14-day trend from 2 down to 0.9, I think that's what it means. 1.7, it's gone down to 1.7 from 2.7, that's cases per day. From 5.7 all the way down to 2.2. So you can see most of the counties in Virginia have hardly any cases. About half of the remaining ones are blue cases, are going down, and half the remaining are going up. But even then, like this has got 2 cases per day. It's actually fewer cases than some of the blue ones, but it's going down. It's going up. See, that one is the same number of cases as that one, but that one's going up from 1.3 cases. But still, 2 cases per day in an entire county is not that much. Red means it's going up rapidly. That's gone all the way up to 9 cases a day. So now what Virginia has to do is to focus in on these red ones. 3.6 there, that seems to be the worst red one. This little one there, what's that? T, so that's the worst red one. That's the worst fast-growing outbreak in Virginia, Prince George County. So that's still 9 cases a day. Your risk isn't huge even if you are in Prince George County. Remember, all those 9 cases will now be isolated, and all their contacts should be traced and isolated. At least Virginia is doing a pretty good job. It's finding at least half the contacts, about half the contacts. It should do better. So the worst case scenario is that Virginia decides, well, we've got to do a lockdown. It now knows where to go. So it will probably only do limited lockdowns. Prince George County, Montgomery County, and Lynchburg. Hope I'm pronouncing those right. Those are quite likely ones to have a fast, localized lockdown to control the outbreak. But Virginia, like many of the states, it hasn't got that many cases per day. It's only got 500 per day over the entire county, which nowadays seems quite a lot. Look, there's quite a lot. That's a county with quite a lot. 20, going up slowly from 10 to 20. That would be another county that would probably need close attention. So if they do a lockdown, then basically it means they've decided they're not quite sure where it is. So the 19 cases, but they've got contacts and they're There are just too many contacts. They don't feel they've traced everyone. So they might then do a lockdown. Now you can stop this yourself. If you are in one of these counties with lots of cases, be sure to wash your hands thoroughly. You should do anyway if there are any COVID-19 cases around. Wash between your fingers, wash your thumb, wash your fingernails and your palms every time. It's a little routine you can learn that Dr. Tedros demonstrated that will mean that you can do all that in 20 seconds. It becomes a habit. If you do that, keep 1 meter away from anyone who could possibly have COVID-19, including close friends, even family, if there's a chance they have COVID-19. Wash your hands. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. It doesn't matter what you touch, even if your house is covered in COVID-19, so long as you don't touch your eyes, nose and mouth, and so long as you keep away from anyone, 1 meter away from someone talking directly to you. It doesn't matter walking past them. That will not give you COVID-19. It's only if you're talking directly to them. Then, or laughing or singing, or something that expels the larger droplets. That's when you are at risk. Also shared cutlery and you're passing things like salt shakers and so on. So if you ever need to isolate within your own household, you can actually do a pretty good job if you are really, really careful. If someone in your household has COVID-19 and they keep this, and this is the only situation where WHO says you should wear masks. Both should wear masks, clinical masks, if you have to be close to someone you are caring for. You often have to go closer than 1 meter if you're caring for someone. And keeping cutlery separate. But if your house is fine and nobody in your house has got COVID-19, and if they're all keeping careful as well, then your care is mainly when you're outside your house for shopping, talking, visiting people, depending what's permitted in your state. Then keep the distancing. Keep the distance very strict. 2 meters is ultra safe. 1 meter is what the WHO say is enough. And then you can help stop these things spreading. These 20 people wouldn't have got it if they had done the proper physical distancing. You can be pretty certain that if they'd done what I just described, they wouldn't have got it. We could stop this just by everyone doing that properly. But because people don't do the physical distancing properly, then we also have to do the testing and the tracing and the isolating. And the tracing is tracing people you've had contact with where you weren't physically distanced. That's the main objective. They will, just for precaution, do it people that you've been sitting next to, etc. But that is not how it gets transmitted. And the COVID-19 is especially easy to stop because it mainly spreads through super spreading, like a big party, like singing, like a big chat where you're all around a table and you're really close to each other, and you turn to each other and you talk really close, and you shout at each other, or a old person's home, shouting at people at close quarters is one of the worst ways to spread it. And so those super spreader events can be controlled. They're very easy to control once you realize that that's what the problem is. There's almost no transmission through buying things. You're not at risk really going to your nearest shop. Talking to people, it's about 15 minutes talking to someone at 1 meter unless they do something like spit in your eyes or cough in your face. Then it's not easy to get this disease in normal course of events, but there are certain super spreader events that make it very easy to get it. So you've got to stop those as utmost priority. And governments are not explaining this properly. And so when the lockdowns were eased and it hadn't been explained properly, lots of people went around and merrily did super spreading, just not realising that this is what you've absolutely as your top priority. So you haven't seen your friends for 3 weeks. You throw a little party and you shout at each other and sing and have a bit of raucous shouting and maybe get a bit drunk. And then you've got a super spreader event if anyone in that little group had COVID-19. So that's the big thing to stop doing. And don't worry about buying packages and things. It's I don't think there's even been, don't know if there's been, you can get it by passing something straight away. Someone passed a salt shaker to someone else in Germany and the other person got it, and they know for sure because they were back to back. And then he just said, pass me the salt please, we're out of it on our table. He passed over the salt shaker and in that moment he got COVID-19. So passing something from one person to another, even then it wouldn't get to you. It's not a contact virus. It won't go through your skin. You won't get it by touching even a big block. Even if someone's kind of vomited or something and you put your hand in the vomit, you still wouldn't get it. It's only if you don't wash your hands before touching your eyes, nose and mouth. So if during the day you keep a distance of 1 meter from someone, you don't share cutlery with people who could have it. If someone says pass the salt shaker, again, well, the problem is anything that involves food, if there's a risk of it getting into your food, it could get into you that way, but only immediately, not people preparing food. Don't worry about that, as long as they do proper care of the food. It's really mainly through touching something, and then your eyes, nose and mouth, or direct contact through. So that person who's passed the salt shaker may well, probably they touch their eyes, nose and mouth immediately after handling the salt shaker. It's very easy to do. So that's the main thing, and you can stop it, and you can be one of the people in your state that is breaking the chains of transmission so they don't go through you to anyone else. So I hope this helps with the example of Virginia to see this is controllable. And well, let's look out at let's zoom out and look at the entire, let's look at some of the worst, let's look at the worst example. I looked at Virginia, and let's look at Arizona. If I can remember where Arizona is. Somewhere around here. Where is Arizona? I'm not American. Oh sorry, am I out far enough? Where's Arizona? It's a bit further over, isn't it? Oh, it's doing all the counties. That confuses me hugely. Ah, there we are. That's Arizona. So and that's also Arizona. So there we are. See, even in Arizona, most of it, there's hardly nothing. This is a very localized map. It actually shows, I hadn't quite realized, it shows outbreaks within a county. So there we go. In Gala County, there's a 14-day trend. It's gone up from 2.3 to 16. So you look at Arizona with its 3,000 cases a day, and it seems, how can you possibly deal with 3,000 cases a day? But here we are, Gala County. It's got a 14-day trend from 2.3 to 16. An outbreak of 16 is manageable. The problem is that Arizona has not got enough contact tracers. It has only 396. It did increase fourfold from 100 just a day or two ago, but it's nowhere near enough for 3,000 people. With those 16 people, if you wanted to contact trace all 16, you would need about 60 contact tracers. It's really quite hard work because you've got to find all the contacts, usually up to 20 or so. You have to go and trace all those contacts. You've got to reassure the first person you're talking to, build a rapport, talk to them for quite a long time. You've got to talk to each of the contacts, maybe 20 contacts, for quite a long time, explain to them what they have to do. You then have to follow up each contact every day and the original case. That entire thing requires more contact tracers than there are cases per day. And typically, if you do it properly and thoroughly, some states may not be doing it properly. If they just ring up and say, hey, you've got COVID-19, please let me know who your contacts are. Oh yes, I'm Joe Bloggs and Tim Smith or something. And then you say, okay, I'll ring them up. You've probably missed 3/4 of their contacts. They're panicking. They needed reassurance. They needed help. They need you to talk to them for 15-20 minutes. Help them understand what's happening, what they've got to do. They're worrying about how they're going to buy food. It's not really the right time for them to suddenly, at the tip of their mind, to know immediately who they had talked to in the last 3 days. So some people are not doing the contact tracing really thoroughly enough. If you do it thoroughly, it's a long job. You have to build a rapport, you've got to talk, you've got to become friends with this person basically. Not like bosom friends, but you've got to have the rapport of a connection, not just friend, not like a friend, like becoming their friend, but you've got to have the rapport of listening to them, hearing, active listening, and echoing what they're saying back. So they say, oh, I'm so scared I'm worried that something's going to happen to my mother because she lives in the same house as me, and you've just said I've got COVID-19, and then you've got to kind of echo back and say, oh, I understand that you're very concerned about your mother. This shows you're listening to them. And you mightn't be able to say very much, but you can then say to them, but your doctor may be able to help, and you need to know how to isolate properly from your mother, and I am not the person to advise you, but these people can help you. So a proper contact tracer has to do all that at the same time, and then you're saying, oh, I usually have to go and I need to go and get some food, I'm short of food, and then they say, well, is there anybody who could go and get food for you? And then they'll say, oh, well, my sister could. She lives just down the road, say. They say, okay, ask your sister. So that bit of conversation, you need to talk about all that, because that's the first thing on their mind. And then you say something like, I am here for the government, and we are trying to stop this virus from spreading to other people. You can protect the people that you've had contact with and their friends, and in order to do this we need to find a bit of information from you and try to find who it is you've been in contact with. Now, don't worry if you want this to be, if you don't want them to know that you've got COVID-19, we will not tell them who it was they were in contact with. On the other hand, if you do want them to know, we give you a bit of time so you can contact them first if you would prefer to tell them personally. So you explain all that properly to them and lots of other things, and then you say, do you remember what you went to the hospital yesterday? When you came back, did you talk to anyone, or did you just come straight back? And then they might say, I've just remembered, I talked to my neighbour for 15 minutes, and he wanted to know how I was doing. So you've got so proper contact tracing requires an empathic person, someone who's very brusque and isn't good at reading signals from other people. Is not going to do a good job. So not all states are doing proper contact tracing yet. And Arizona is definitely not. It's only got 396. They have to be properly trained, which takes a couple of days of training. And they need to be trained properly, not just some leaflet that they read. The Johns Hopkins course in New York is very good at explaining contact tracing. I did about half of it, the bits that interested me most, skipped the bits I knew already, because I wasn't qualifying to be a proper contact tracer. I was just doing it to find out how it works. And then what I just explained is based on examples from that course. Anyway, so Anyway, I hope this helps you all to be a bit less scared. Realise that even though here in Arizona with its very scary 3,000 cases a day, but it's a breakup of lots of little breakups. There you've got a huge amount there. So that county in Arizona, Pima County, it's got 260 cases. So that's quite a big outbreak. But even so, that is containable, that is addressable. They may, in the worst case, have to do a local lockdown, especially since they haven't been doing the proper contact tracing in order to build up. So Arizona may have to do a lockdown in order to build up its contact tracing, because these contact tracers need to be trained, as I said. You can't just instantly ring up go to your nearest employment exchange and immediately employ the first 100 people, the first 2,000 people that go through the door. It's got to be people who are trustworthy, people who will keep a secret, who will be confidential, who will not leak information from the original case to the contacts. They mustn't say who the original case was. That could easily slip out in conversation if you're not careful. There's an awful lot of vetting needed for these 2,000 tracers, and they need to be properly trained. So even though they know where it is, even though they've got a better idea of where it is, there's much more testing. They may well need to do a statewide lockdown because they haven't got the tools in place. They haven't got enough testing, they haven't got enough tracers, they haven't got time to train all the tracers, vet them all, interview them all. And so as it goes, if it does as looks likely now, it looks likely they go 3,000. It's unlikely they stop before 10,000, I think, in Arizona, 10,000 a day, because the next couple of weeks will already be built in. And if they act very vigorously now, unless we are lucky. So it could be that this is just a blip. So if this is a late Memorial Day and riots blip, Memorial Day and demonstrations, most of them weren't riots, if it's just a blip, then it may come down again. If it was just an awful lot of people just not doing the proper distancing for a certain period of time, then it might come down. So some of these might be genuine blips. But if it is that they relax too soon, then it'll keep going up. We don't know which it is yet. I do think it's possible that some of these may be blips, and they may come down naturally. So that is possible as well. It's just too soon to say. So anyway, but the situation is not hopeless. There's no fault, even in Arizona. Look, that's got decreasing cases from 62 down to 51. This means that whatever they're doing in Santa Cruz County, they're doing it right. That won't happen naturally, not by the time you got to as many as 62 cases. Then you've got lots of contact tracing. So in Santa Cruz County, Arizona, they were doing perhaps they were doing the physical distancing more. Perhaps whatever caused all these outbreaks were just blips because of super spreaders, and in that county they were a bit more careful. Even though they had 62 cases a day, they were more careful, so it's going down. That does slightly suggest that it could be maybe a bit of a blip. If you've got one county that's going down, then maybe the other counties were doing something with so many, but that's going up. And that's one of the big cases, is that's gone 700 up to 1,000. That's gone to 260 from 134. But maybe there was a lot of, are there any more blue ones? 21 from 39. So there are quite a lot of blue ones. You know, there's another one, that's not such a big one. I'm looking at blue ones that are also big. There are lots of cases. 16 from 23. There are enough blue ones. That's Utah, so that's too far apart. There are enough blue ones that it is possible that some of this is a blip. You know, 63, 2 weeks, that's staying steady. That's gone up a bit. No, that's gone down a little bit. So anyway, please, and this does not happen naturally. there's definitely a huge amount of control going on, even in Arizona. Once you got to, that number of cases, whatever was it, that blue one that we were at. Can't find it now. Yeah, once you got to 23 cases even. But once you got to, I can't find it now, but remember I found a case with 60 cases, another one with several hundred. Once you got to that number, then it will not come down naturally, easily at all. So they must be doing quite a lot to suppress it there. Probably doing the physical distancing properly and doing proper exit from lockdown. And then some testing and isolating and testing. It may be enough in some places, maybe is doing enough testing and isolating. So there's a huge amount actually happening in the United States. And if you go down to the county level, I think the United States could do a lot by empowering at the county level, but sadly it's got to be very careful work. California tried that approach, but it's not got enough tracers. It's not giving them the finance and the support that they need to do it at the county level. But the county level, the WHO say that the smallest administrative unit does need to be empowered because they can do the contact tracing best of all. They know how their county works and they can talk as someone else in the same county to the contact the person they're being tracing. So anyway, I hope some of you will be a little bit more optimistic and more cheerful. And we have been through all this in Europe, and most of Europe. We're definitely well on the way down now. And I expect that, say, a couple of months from now at least, you'll be well on the way down in the United States, and maybe a month from now. Then it depends how much is a blip, how much it's, and a steady one, certainly, for sure, they could be going down quite soon. A couple of weeks, any due interventions now will lead to it going down in a week or two. If there's a blip, then it'll go down naturally anyway. And but it will continue rising. The ones that have a steep rise, then you can expect them to probably continue rising unless it's a blip for another couple of weeks at the same rate. So for instance, this one went from 0.2 to 2.7, that's a big increase. And so goodness knows that could be hundreds in another couple of weeks. They really need to get a move on there and do something about it, because there's something happening there, probably. And there we are, there's another one, 2.3 to 16, 2.3 cases a day. So there's something there that's going on that needs to be stopped. And some super spreader event. And if we're lucky, it was a blip 2 weeks ago, and it's just not. It's not going to, and it's just going to peter out by itself. But even then, once you've got 16 people, but they could steady off if everyone is doing the right distancing and the lockdown measures. But if whatever caused that, so that is an example, 2.3 to 16. So that's 5-fold to 6-fold, 7-fold. What is it? It's about 7-fold, I think. 7-fold increase, a quick bit of mental arithmetic, in 2 weeks. So a 7-fold increase again would take you to 7 times 60, whatever that is. 420 plus 441, I think, if my arithmetic is right. It's roughly right. I'm not a mathematical. I did maths. I'm very good at maths, but I'm not a calculating prodigy. But 400 and whatever it is, whatever I said, 441, I think I said, something like that. So that's what it could be in 2 weeks, if whatever caused it back then is still ongoing. If you do a quick intervention now, that is probably already built in, because that's just how it works. It's already built in. And so what was it, 16 times 7, yes, it's probably already built in, if whatever happened then is still going on. And that means that if you do strict interventions now, you'll have 400 cases per day 2 weeks from now. 9 days maybe, and then it'll start going down. And then 2 weeks after that, you're back to your 16, and then another 2 weeks after that, if you're doing very strict test, trace, isolate, it goes down at least as quickly as that. No, not as quickly as that. 4 weeks, maybe 4 weeks from now, if you do very strict test, trace, isolate, it's back to 16, and then another month after that, it's back to your 2, and then, no, another month after that, it'll be just about gone. So 2 months from now, something like that, plus those 2 weeks. So these just seem so little, just 16 cases. But if there's something ongoing, it really is increasing at that rate in a steady way, then that super spread event needs to be stopped now. And even then, you may have already built in several hundred cases per day, and you might be talking about something you can only control properly in another month and a half. So this is why it's so very, very important to spot cases right away at a very early stage and immediately suppress them. You should have suppressed it before now. And that's why test, trace, isolate and stopping super spreading is so important. But countries, states are learning that. Gradually they're learning from each other, and it's localized. If you look at the big outbreak there, nothing there. Sorry, nothing there. And that's New Mexico. But there'll be a nothing county in. Where's Arizona? I've got to try and find a nothing county in Arizona. Maybe Arizona has got too many, hasn't got any nothing counties. It's got a steady county. Now Arizona has got cases in just about every county, but some are very few. That's a decreasing, even in Arizona, 39 to 21. And that's decreasing 9 to 7.4. But I think every county that I can see has a case. At least one case. Oh, here we are. There's one Greenlee County has few or no cases. So you do have one county still in Arizona, and maybe another one down here. Just Greenlee County has few cases, has few or no cases. So anyway, so I hope this makes you more optimistic and more positive about what's going on in the United States. Looking at the county level is a good way to get a bit more of a hold and break it down, and it's less scary. And so that's my main tip here. And hope this helps you. And even in Arizona, then it's decreasing in some counties. And we can, this shows you can get it under control. It doesn't decrease naturally unless you've got a tiny outbreak of just a half dozen cases. It can, if you're very lucky, just disappear because there were no super spreading events. But once you've got to a few dozen, there's no way it's going to stop unless you've completely stopped the super spreading and doing proper testing and tracing and isolating. So anyway, do subscribe if you want to hear more of these, and like the video if you want to kind of improve the visibility and tell people that you've liked it, as it were. And do join our Facebook group on Doomsday Debunked if you need help dealing with these scary things. Because we have fact checkers like me there who can help you in many ways, and there are also people who are very good at reassuring scared people, and if you're suicidal or if you're very scared. Also, if you are manic, bipolar, don't worry, we have built the rules for the group to help everyone, even if you are aware that the way you communicate with others often causes problems in social groups online. We are very careful that we have the rules that you have to follow, and then we are used to people who are autistic and manic in the group. About a quarter of those in the group are autistic, of the ones who need help. About half are just scared anyway, and like everyone else. Amongst those, it's mainly the most imaginative and people and empathic people who tend to be most easily scared. But we are there to help everyone, and the group is inclusive. So anyway, I hope this helps you all to be a bit less scared.